So we now know that the 2v7 matchup will be between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies after the Timberwolves defeated the Los Angeles Clippers in the play-in tournament. In my opinion, I think this is a series that could be really entertaining. And in today's video, I'll be discussing who I think will win the series. I'm going to start off by talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and their chances, then the Pelicans and their chances. And at the end of the video, I'm going to come to a conclusion on who I think will win. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be posting daily playoff content like every single day. Also, drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. Play that intro. So to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies first, I think the key for them in a series like this has to be the defensive side of the floor, and that's something I think they can accomplish. They were a top 5 defense this year. They have multiple versatile defenders, many guys who could defend really well, and they're going to need that versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are a top 10 offense in the league this year. The Wolves have 3 guys who can score 25 points or more on any given night. When it comes to defense, I think they can actually do a really good job on the Wolves star player and Karl-Anthony Towns, because like they have Steven Adams, who's definitely strong enough to contain Cat in the post somewhat. He's not just going to get bullied, he's arguably the strongest player in the NBA. Then they also have Jaren Jackson Jr., who they could throw at Towns, who might honestly be the perfect matchup for Towns outside of like a guy like Bam Adebayo. He's a guy who could guard Towns on the perimeter just as good as anyone, and hopefully you would hope that he could guard him in the post decently. I think he could do a really good job on Towns, and I think the Grizzlies will probably do something similar to what the Clippers did, which was put like a wing player on Towns. For the most time it was Batum, and have their center in the paint ready to help. I think the Grizzlies should do something like that, like putting Jaren Jackson Jr. on Towns on the perimeter and having Steven Adams there to help. And to be honest, I have some questions about Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs, because obviously we just seen this guy does not play at his best when the lights are at his brightest. And when it comes to someone like Anthony Edwards, I think Dillon Brooks could do a solid job on him. He's not going to lock him down or anything, but he could do a solid job because Dillon Brooks is a really good defender when he's really trying. When it comes to D'Angelo Russell, I think he's someone they have to contain, because in the games he played against the Grizzlies this year, he has absolutely torched them, averaging more than 31 points per game on crazy efficiency. They definitely have to contain him, because I think he's in Minnesota's X factor. If he goes off in a series like this, it's not going to help Memphis's chances of winning. So if a guy like Desmond Bane or maybe even Ja Morant, those guys might have to step up and play some really good defense on him. But overall, I think Memphis is just one of the best defenses in the league. They're not a defense like Utah that relies on just one player, so it's easy to game plan for their defense and stuff. Overall, they're just a really good defensive team. When it comes to the offensive side of the floor for Memphis, they were also top 5 in the league in offense. And against Minnesota's defense, which is pretty good if I'm being honest, I still think Memphis should be okay. The only where I have is that Ja Morant really struggled against the Timberwolves in the regular season, averaging only 20 points, shooting terrible efficiency. But overall, the Timberwolves don't really have anyone who I think is going to like really slow him down that much, because Patrick Beverley is like, we all know Patrick Beverley's the loud guy. I think if Patrick Beverley's going to get under Ja Morant, it's going to be because he got in his head and doing all his antics and stuff. I don't think Patrick Beverley can actually guard Ja Morant. If I'm being honest, I think guys like Jaden McDaniels will do a better job on him. But the guys like Desmond Bane has to produce. Dillon Brooks is really inconsistent, and they're going to need him to step up if they want to win. But in my opinion, their X factor definitely has to be Jaren Jackson Jr. He's a guy who sometimes looks like the clear second best offensive player on this team. Then on other nights, he looks like complete trash. If he plays good, then the Grizzlies could win this series. He's also an X factor because he's probably going to be guarding Karl-Anthony Towns a lot. But overall, I think Memphis should be fine, because especially if they run out a small ball lineup with Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 5, they could really take advantage of Minnesota. In the regular season, these teams faced each other. They both won 2 games against each other. The Grizzlies have some of the best depth in the league, and I know depth is not as good and not as important in the playoffs, but it still does help, and the Grizzlies have significantly better depth than Minnesota, so that helps them. Also, the Grizzlies have more playoff experience, and I'm not worried about Ja Morant underperforming in the playoffs, because last year he literally averaged 30 points against a better defensive team with like the best rim protector in the league. I think the Grizzlies will win this series as long as they just keep playing their game, playing the way they played in the regular season. If they do that, they will win the series. They might lose some games because Karl-Anthony Towns goes off or Anthony Edwards goes off, but I can't see the Grizzlies losing unless they fall into Patrick Beverley's like trap and just start playing weird, if you know what I mean. They should win the series, but just because they should win the series doesn't mean they will. To talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, obviously they're coming off that big win in the play-in tournament versus the Clippers. Probably coming to the series with a lot of confidence, which is a good thing. I think the key for the Timberwolves in the series is their offense, because they're going to be going up against the Memphis Grizzlies, who, as I said, have one of the best defenses in the league. The most important thing for the Timberwolves in this series is Karl-Anthony Towns playing like the all-star level guy we all know he is. We all know a few years ago, last time Cat was in the playoffs, he got absolutely embarrassed and outplayed by Clint Capella. That simply cannot happen this year if the Timberwolves want to advance in the playoffs. I was hoping that Karl-Anthony Towns may have changed as a player, but in the play-in game he just acted absolutely terrible. He looked nervous, he was forcing shots, he was committing stupid fouls. I hope for Minnesota's sake he's still not a choker, but I guess we'll just have to see. It's not like he's even going like against a bad defensive team, so he's actually gonna have to put in work for his buckets. They're also gonna need Anthony Edwards to step up, and I actually think he will step up because he just has that swagger to him that makes me believe he's really gonna step up in the playoffs. And if I honestly had to predict, I think he would be this team's best player in the playoffs. I'm not really worried about him. For some reason, I'm also not worried about D'Angelo Russell, because in the regular season, as I said, Russell averaged over 30 points against the Grizzlies in the regular season. Obviously, playoffs and regular season is different, but I think D'Angelo Russell proved to us last game that he's one of the most clutch players in the league, and I think he'll step up in this series. If the Timberwolves want to win, they're going to need some other guys to step up and play their role. Guys like Malik Beasley, guys like Patrick Beverley, Jaden McDaniel, Naz Reid. I'm not telling these guys to go out there and average 20 points, but just contribute on the offensive side of the floor. The Wolves will need as much points as they can get against this great Grizzlies defense, and their role players stepping up will definitely help their chances of winning. Minnesota's roster is pretty solid on defense. Patrick Beverley's probably going to get the Ja Morant matchup, and we all know he's going to do his crazy antics. I think if the best thing Patrick Beverley should try and do is to get under Ja Morant's skin and get his head out of the game, make him take more jump shots, make him just play out of control. That would be the biggest help Patrick Beverley could do for his team, because when it comes to one-on-one, I don't really think Patrick Beverley can guard Ja Morant. They got to defend Desmond Bane. He's been Memphis' second best offensive player. He's basically a 20 points per game scorer. I think Edwards will probably get that matchup, him or Jaden McDaniels. When it comes to guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., just try not to let him go crazy. But I think overall Minnesota could play solid defense on them. But in my opinion, if Minnesota wants to win the series, the best way for it to happen is for Karl-Anthony Towns to dominate, along with Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell playing well on the perimeter, but especially Towns. Towns has to play good. If Towns doesn't play good, the Timberwolves might even get swept. We all know Towns is capable of dominating anyone. No one can really guard Karl-Anthony Towns. The only person that guards him is himself. He just needs to get out of his head and just straight up hoop, and that will at least give Minnesota a good chance to win. But to now answer the question of who I think will win the series, I think I have to go with the Memphis Grizzlies, bro. I predict them to win it in 5 or 6 games, but I'm going to go with 5 games. Honestly, I just think Memphis is a team that's built to be good in the playoffs. They have guys like Ja Morant, who showed last year in the playoffs he's ready for prime time. Also, the culture in Memphis is not one that makes me think they're going to disappoint or underperform. Simply, Memphis is just a better team than the Timberwolves, and on top of that, the Timberwolves' best player in Karl-Anthony Towns is a guy who has shown to underperform in big moments, so I don't know how much faith I want to put in the Timberwolves, but I think overall there'll be some entertaining games in the series. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know who you think's winning this series. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want us to go over 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro.